any students or anyone exploring a career in accounting and that CPA licensure. So we'll talk a little bit today about who MassCPAs is, what we do, why CPA licensure is so great in a career and the benefits it offers, and then the how, right? So how to get that license. So MassCPAs is a professional organization or an association for people in accounting or accounting adjacent professions. Each state in the US has their own society of members, and then there's a national one called the AICPA. Massachusetts is one of the largest state societies of CPAs with 11,500 members across all different industries. So you might think of public accounting, like some of these big four firms, Deloitte, PwC, you've probably heard of those global firms, all the way to a sole practitioner with their own business, to industry, an accountant at Boston Scientific. So all areas of accountants, we have them in our membership. Our staff is small but mighty. We have 24 staff in all these different departments. So I fall under the ACD bucket, and me and my colleague work with students all the way to high school to adults who are, like I said, having that career exploration. We have a whole communications team, an advocacy team that's going to the state legislator to make sure that CPAs have what they need from the government, and a whole learning development team as well. You'll hear a little bit about once you get that CPA license, you need to have continuing professional education credits. So they offer that to the members through webinars, conferences, things like that. We are all across the state in our membership. So while our office is in Boston, right by Downtown Crossing, we have members all over Massachusetts. It was awesome to see all the orientations that take place throughout the state. So that means that we have events, all the way from Boston to Springfield to Burlington to Fall River, everywhere, that's where our members are. So that's where we are. How membership kind of works into MassCPAs is once you are a professional, so once you have a job in accounting, either you or your employer will pay for membership, and that's on a yearly rate. It depends where you are in your career in terms of price. A lot of the times accounting firms will pay for their staff to have membership because they want them to keep up with that continual professional education. Or you can also pay on an individual level, which a lot of people do because of the benefits of membership. If you end up going back to college or university, membership is then free. So anyone who is a student or identifies as a student gets a free membership, but when you're in the profession, to get some of the member specific benefits, you do pay into the membership. But there's a lot that we do for non-members, including some of this information that I'm going to share today. So that's kind of who we are. I also like to show a quick video of an example of some of our members, because it seems just like almost anonymous. Who are these 11,500 people that Allie's talking about? So this is a video that we show to students, kind of like I had mentioned, or also just folks who've maybe never interacted with MassCPAs before, just to get a picture of who our members are and why we think accounting is so great and why we think having your CPA is so great. So it's just 4 minutes, and we'll just take a look. And these are also individuals. If you want to connect with any of these members, just let me know. That's a great thing about being involved with MassCPAs is there's 11,500 people for you to network with. So here's, I think it's like 4 or 5 people as examples.
When people think accounting, they think math. Math is just one aspect of it. When you start off in accounting, yes, there's numbers, but it's much bigger than that.
CPA is a certified public accountant. Someone needs a financial partner. You're an entrepreneur, you started a business, you know how to make widgets, but you don't necessarily know whether you're making them profitably or not. What a CPA and accountant will do is help you to see what your actual costs are.
At the end of the day, you're one of the most trusted advisors to the business, and your expertise is what makes the business run.
So more so in our industry than perhaps others, I think that people rely on us to make sure that engine continues to run. every industry, every business needs a CPA. So you can work in any industry you want, in any role you want.
There are different avenues when you engage into accounting, after graduation. I personally didn't really know what my path was until I was actually in the field. Here at the Y, we want to make sure that we are giving back to our community, whether it's our early learning programs or after school programs, and we'll never turn anyone away, because I want to make sure that every family that walks through this door, every person, can have the luxuries that everyone else has.
Being in auditing, one of the things I love about it is that my clients are not the same clients week to week. So I was able to change locations, go to different clients. So just meeting a lot of different people. Fast forward almost 20 years, I'd say I've worked in various industries, and every company has different issues that they may be dealing with, but we're helping them solve those problems, building those relationships.
When I went out on my own, I didn't go out blind. And that was because of my relationships. Being in the position I was in at the regional firm I was so much more than an auditor. When you're able to speak in front of a board of directors, when you're able to be that point of contact for a client, inherently that builds confidence. And all of those things are essential in being a business owner.
This wasn't one of the careers or professions that was really promoted, to me anyway.
I'm a Latina woman, I've been here 19 years, and there was no one that I was looking up to say she looks like me. I'm doing my part to be a role model and be a mentor, but it also takes everyone, all of leadership, to lean in.
I always say, we're out here. We know that we're out here, but it's just a matter of kind of finding where we are and what we're doing.
When I think about representation, I think it matters. And I think that diversity in thought is an important thing. And if we can get more individuals from diverse backgrounds and with diverse experiences, it's only going to help us to serve our clients better.
My hope is that we'll start to see more of ourselves in this profession. And I have certainly been fortunate to meet Black people, Hispanic, Latino, that work in the finance organization and that are sitting in key roles and positions or getting promoted. I want to see more of that, just like in the profession in general. It asks a lot out of folks that go into it, but there is a certain amount of kind of professional respect that comes along with it that is meaningful.
You will have so many options if you had an accounting degree. When I think about the jobs as well that the accounting degree can help you to get, they are going to be really good paid jobs.
A career in accounting may not even be what you think it is. There's a lot more communication and engagement in accounting careers that people don't really realize.
There's different paths that you can take. As you proceed, there's opportunities to build a lot of relationships and make a difference in those organizations. So it's not just math, it's more than that.
So I like to show that video so you can see all the things you can do with a CPA license, whether that's working at a big firm like Carol, or working for the YMCA like Lisa, or having your own business like Amanda. So there's just so many things you can do with your CPA license. It really gives you that flexibility. And I also like to show that video to show how the accounting profession is really welcoming of diversity, seeing that they're serving so many clients. So of course they'd want their professionals to come from diverse backgrounds as well. That's just good business. So these are just things to think about when you're thinking back about that video. Is there anything that surprised you? I know a lot of people are surprised that, CPAs work in nonprofits, but, every business needs an accountant, but that's something that you're interested in going to, or maybe going to work in academia or anything like that. There is CPAs there, so you can do really whatever interests you. And then I'm thinking again about all those different branches within that video of our members, and kind of all the different things you can do with that CPA license. It gives you a lot of independence and flexibility. So why CPA? So in a lot of other parts of the world, CPA is similar to it being a chartered accountant, but they are different in that they have different requirements, and there's just different logistics around it. But it is something to keep in the back of your mind, that being a certified public accountant is similar to being a chartered accountant, but not the same. When you have your CPA license, so you're not only are you an accountant, you have this licensure, this credential. because of that, there's a lot more trust and respect. I think in that video, they talked about how they're trusted advisors. In the business world, accounting is the backbone of business. People are then going to CPAs to ask the really important questions. So it's really great to have that trust and respect. The three letters after your name, CPA, really, welcome that. Having a competitive edge. So if you have your CPA license, and that's on your resume, if someone's looking at your resume and then someone who doesn't have their CPA license, it's a likely chance that they're going to take a second look at your resume. It really gives you that competitive edge in the job market. Career security. So there are always jobs for accountants and CPAs. When we think about kind of what happened with the labor market during the pandemic, a lot of folks lost their jobs, right? CPAs did not lose their jobs. They actually were really helping maintain the economy during that really difficult time. So being in accounting, we will always need accountants and we will always need CPAs. So that's just like some career security to think about in terms of all the things that fluctuate within the labor market. Job satisfaction and variety. So that video really demonstrated that there's so much that you can do. So, CPAs report having a lot of job satisfaction because they're doing something that they like. It is important, for you to like your career. So, if you're interested in medicine, but maybe don't want to be a doctor, you can be an accountant for a hospital, things like that. So you really can find that job satisfaction that works for you. And then the income potential. So having your CPA license really sets you above in terms of salary. A lot of firms report paying their CPAs 10% more than their folks that don't have their CPA license. And also most firms that I've heard of, once you get that license, you get a pretty significant bonus. And then there's just so much more career growth at a faster pace when you have this credential. So income is really huge there in terms of why you might want your CPA license. So that's all great in terms of the why, but for the how, and I think I have something in the chat real quick. I'll make sure. Awesome. Okay. And we can definitely have plenty of time for questions. So in terms of how to obtain this license, there's 3 E's to think about: education, experience, exam. In Massachusetts, if you wanted to be a Massachusetts licensed CPA, there isn't an extra ethics component exam. In some other states, so say you're relocating to the Midwest or something like that, there might be some different requirements. So something to keep in mind. So what I'm sharing today is about being a Massachusetts licensed CPA. There's similarities throughout the states, but again, just something to keep in mind. By Massachusetts, you need education, experience, exam. All right. And then, like I said, there is some variance across different states in the US, but kind of a blanket rule is that you need 150 credits to get that license and then some sort of experience. But things really vary, and it's kind of a case-by-case basis, which can be good because there's some flexibility, but also it can be confusing. So that's why I'm here as a resource. So just keeping that in mind, that it's not so cut and dry, black and white here, the steps A, B, and C. So there is some variability there. So what's interesting about the CPA licensure process is there's different requirements to take the exam than to get your license. This has been a change in the past 10 years, just so people can start taking this exam a little earlier if they want to, just to get ahead of the process. So in order to take the CPA exam, you need to have 120 credit hours, which is a bachelor's degree. So you do need a bachelor's degree. There is a whole process for folks who have a degree from an international university that can equate, you go through an evaluation and they equate whatever courses you took at your university to the ones that are required here, and to see kind of where you fall in the 120 credit hours. Out of those 120 credits, and then for more context, most of these college courses are 3 or 4 credits. So out of the big blanket of 120 to sit for the exam, 21 of those, so a good chunk of those, need to be actually in accounting, right? That makes sense, and need to cover some different topics: financial accounting, audit, management accounting, tax, things like that. And then out of the 120, bigger bucket, 9 of those have to be business, because obviously business and accounting are so related. So around business law, finance, information systems, we talk a lot more about information systems and data analytics as we get more and more technologically advanced. So these are the requirements to sit for the exam. Then, you have those requirements, you take the exam, you pass all 4 sections, because I know you will. In order to have licensure, you actually need 150 credit hours. So that's a little bit more than a bachelor's degree. You can gain those credits through a bunch of different ways. Again, you can go, if you have a master's degree or higher than a bachelor's, if you went to school for longer in a university outside of the States, you can go through that evaluation process. A lot of people choose to get a graduate degree in accounting because that kind of check, like, you're all set, you have the 150, you're ready to go. Some folks do like a little bit of everything. So then maybe they'll take a couple courses at a community college. Maybe they'll take some courses at a grad school or whatever it may be. That it's really kind of choose your own adventure in a way to make sure that you get that 150 credits. There is, of course, some pushback of why do we need 150 credits? Why do we need more than a bachelor's degree? And the AICPA, which is kind of the governing body, is really adamant that having this 150 credit hours gives people who have their CPA license an edge above other folks because they did go through that extra work. They did get that extra information and knowledge. So it is required. Also for licensure, there is an experience requirement. So before you have your license, you actually have to work in accounting. That's either 1 year of a public accounting firm. Think some of these big firms that we've mentioned, like PwC, EY, BDO, or of course a smaller accounting firm too. We have a lot of regional ones in Massachusetts they're amazing. So any type of public accounting, 1 year of experience. Or if public accounting isn't what you want to do, if you want to go into private accounting, for example, working for a company, a corporate accounting role, then you need to do 3 years. So it's a little bit more. And during those 3 years, you need to be directly supervised by a Massachusetts licensed CPA. So just something to keep in mind. A lot of folks just go through the public accounting route just because they want to get 1 year and then be done and get their license before they continue with their career. But it's really up to you. And like I said, the ethics exam is not required in Massachusetts. So the exam, and this is what a lot of people talk about when they talk about CPA licensure, because it is a difficult exam, just like the bar exam to become lawyer is difficult. There's a reason it's difficult, right? They're really trying to kind of set that rigor and standard high in order for the CPA license to have such weight and be such a powerful credential. So the exam is created by a bunch of different governing entities, including state board. So the Massachusetts State Board, which is outside of MassCPAs, really puts in some consideration there. And it is changing. So the CPA exam as it is today isn't the same exam as it was 20 years ago. And that's good because you want the exam to reflect the accounting profession. You don't want to be taking a test just to take a test. But also is just something to keep in mind as you're studying and preparing for it, as that it is continually evolving. A big reason for that, though, of course, is technology. I'm sure everyone's heard about robotics and artificial intelligence and how that's coming into the workforce. It really has a huge role in accounting. It's not taking anyone's jobs. I want to, bust that myth from the beginning, but it is taking some of the mundane or repetitive kind of data entry tasks out of entry-level roles, which is awesome, but then that is requiring these entry-level roles to have more non-technical skills. So when these accounting firms are hiring, they're looking for these skills on the screen. So project management, critical thinking, things like that. And the CPA exam has then had more focus on these things. They want to make sure that CPA candidates have analytical skills, have communication skills. So the exam is becoming more and more focused on that instead of some of these technical things that technology can now take care of. So that's something to keep in mind too. The exam is completely new as of January 2024 in terms of structure of sections. So that's great if you are new and into the CPA licensure process. In terms of the sections for the exam, there's there's the core sections around like audit, tax, things that you normally think of when you think of accounting. And now what's new about the exam is the fourth section you get to choose. So these are the three, I almost think of them as like college electives, where you get to choose whatever one works for you. And the reason for that is so you can choose the section that actually interests you. So if you want to go into tax accounting, then you can take the tax compliance and planning section. If no, I never want to work with taxes. I don't even file my own taxes. I don't understand tax. Then maybe go into information system and controls. So this is new to the exam. And because it's new, something to keep in mind is that the exam prep providers, so all the courses that help you study for the exam, they're slowly catching up to this new CPA evolution. But it is great just because it's a reflection of the profession. In terms of, so if you do end up going back to school or joining a firm and becoming a MassCPAs member, you do get a discount on a lot of these prep courses, which is great. We do quarterly mock exams, which are virtual, and those are completely free to anyone, even if you're not a member. So something to keep in mind too. And I can make sure that Maddie has that information and can send it out to folks when those happen. Even if you just want to kind of like take a look at what the exam even looks like before hopping in, it's totally free and it's online, so you can do it on your own time. I think the next one comes up in May. And MassCPAs, we're here to help. I'll make sure you have my contact information if you have any questions. I can't evaluate transcripts, so I wouldn't be able to let you know whether your credits from a different university match up with the credit requirements, but I can definitely point you in the right direction to have that evaluation done. And also, if you have general questions about accounting and having your CPA and the benefits, and if you want to speak to a CPA because you have questions about, you know, certain aspects of the profession, please reach out to me. Definitely here to help and navigate the process. Obviously, MassCPA, CPA is within our name, so we see the value of having that license. And there's, you know, so much growth potential there. And the process of obtaining it, while can be complicated, it's definitely worth it. And that's why we're here to support anyone who is interested. I know that was a lot of information. I'll make sure you have these slides in case you want to revisit them again, but I don't know as of now if there's any questions. Absolutely. So if you have accounting or business credits from another university, there is a process you can go through. The entity is called NASBA, and it's their International Evaluation Services. And a lot of folks do go through this process. So they submit their transcripts from the whatever country their university is from, and NASBA will then decide which courses are going to count towards that 120 or 150. So that's very common, and they have a whole service for that. Have to enroll in some sort of higher education, whether some people do some community college, some four-year university. So to kind of fill in those gaps, you would have to enroll in a college, either in Massachusetts or in another state. A lot of people do online, obviously now, that's very common. So when you get that evaluation and they let you know these are the credits that are missing, you can then pursue those at a college or university that works best for you. So as long as you get that 120 credits, which is usually more than, so you need a bachelor's degree. Some people do a combination because four-year universities obviously are expensive. So a lot of the people I work with, a lot of students I work with, they do, you know, 2 years or 2 years worth of credit at a community college to get their associates, and then a transfer and finish out at a four-year school. And that usually really helps get them to where they need to be in terms of credits. The community colleges in Massachusetts have wonderful accounting programs and really help you transfer those credits to a four-year university to finish out the 120. So you can go straight to a four-year university. You know, you say, like, I really want to go to UMass, well, go for it. That happens a lot. But if you want to maybe go to Middlesex Community College, get some credits done, then transfer those and finish out your bachelor's at the four-year, then that works too. So really it's kind of whatever works for you and what is needed on your transcript. So your transcripts from your university in Haiti, you can have those evaluated. You can send those to the, it's called NASBA, and they decide which credits count and which ones maybe you need to take a university in the US. And there's a lot of options there too. A lot of people do completely online. Like I said, some people do some of their courses community college, four-year, and I can help talk through some of that too once you get that evaluation back, figuring out the process of what works for you in terms of getting your CPA. But I would say the first step would be to have your transcripts evaluated, just so you know where you stand before you do work that you don't need to do. So I would recommend continuing with those English courses, but at the same time, I will say that there is some accounting knowledge that is more just numbers based, which is obviously a universal language. So it is possible to pursue some of those accounting credentials while working on your English, but it's really up to you. So it's up to, kind of what you think works best for you. It sounds like you're already, taking the steps needed. But I will say that in terms of professions that require to speak English fluently, you do need to have some level to be able to speak with clients and things like that. But the nice thing about accounting is it's numbers based. So it's very much universal. And a lot of folks who work at some of these larger firms, English is their second language because they're global firms, which is great. Depends on the organization and what type of job it is. There are entry-level jobs in accounting. Think about like more like admin type of work, more administrative like office work, where you have some accounting experience. But in terms of getting to some of those public accounting firms, like the ones in the videos and things like that, that's when you will need either experience or the credits. So a lot of the time, the folks who are entering these accounting firms have a degree and then are hired right out of college. So it has to be, that's tricky. So if it's at a non-public accounting firm, you'd have to be supervised by a Massachusetts licensed CPA, so probably not. But if it's at like a global firm like Deloitte or BDO or something like that, then there's some kind of like workarounds there because you are working with folks kind of in Massachusetts because it is global. So it kind of depends on what that experience looks like. But if it's at, if you're doing accounting for, a small firm or a private business, that likely wouldn't count, and you would need to get the experience here as well. So I think for a lot of accounting firms really prefer folks to have that CPA license, and kind of I had mentioned this in the chat too. You do need to have some sort of experience in the U.S. and then need to have those credits that are equivalent. I would, in terms of any sort of job searching with accounting, I would start at like smaller or regional accounting firms or those types of before going into some of those larger firms, just because they have so many requirements and like policies and red tape almost in their hiring process. But in terms of like, now is really the time to start searching for a job in accounting because there's a higher demand. So I would look more for like those smaller accounting firms who might be more flexible in their hiring practices compared to a larger firm. But like I said, I definitely don't agree with the fact that it is so difficult. I think there's a lot of like education that needs to happen with accounting firms, and that's why, I'm here to work with our firms kind of on that end too. Because like you said, it shouldn't be so hard. But my advice there is to, of course, make sure your resume is super up to date, that you're on LinkedIn. That's where accounting folks recruit from. It's LinkedIn. And then to maybe apply to some of those more smaller regional firms.